What's going on, everybody? What is happening? I'm excited. I'm excited today. I got my buddy Josh Horowitz on. You know him from Sad, Happy, Confused. Was that right?
Happy, Sad, Confused.
Happy, Sad, Confused.
It's so close.
I got the three. I got the three in there.
Look,
Happy, Sad, Confused.
I'll take any three.
Doesn't matter because Happy, Sad, Confused is an awesome show, and the amount of celebrities and the amount of stuff that this guy gets out of these people is incredible. But I get to talk to Josh. And
what a gift!
It's an amazing gift, and I can't wait to do it because he's even if he knew he wouldn't tell me, but he always has inside scoops, and I got to find out about this Taika Waititi thing, Star Wars. Is this going to happen? I don't know, but that's what we're going to talk about today. Make sure that you're tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. We passed 50,000. We've only had this thing up since August. We passed 50,000. That's because of you guys, the commenting, the sharing, the likes, all that stuff. It's very, very amazing, and I'm blessed to have you all. So make sure you do that. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. All right, we're gonna get into this thing. Let's talk about it. It's Josh Horowitz. It's the show. Come on. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Big thing. Kristian Harloff here. All right, enough about me. Ladies and gentlemen, look who I got. I got Josh Horowitz. What's up, man?
Enough about you. Enough about you. It's all about me.
It is about you.
Hey.
It is about you. You know what's so great about this? We were just talking about it. Josh is in town. Just did with the Gray Man.
The Gray Man. A cast of thousands.
Yeah, there's so many people inside of that thing. Holy crap! So we'll talk about that in a second.
Sure.
The Gray Man, and he's out there, and I follow Josh obviously on the twits and everywhere, and I had seen that he was here, and I went, oh, gosh darn it, I was going to talk to him about being on the show next time. And turns out you're still in town. I thought you would have flown away, but we got a chance to do this thing, and you came on over. It was awesome.
This was a booking 3 hours in the making.
Yes.
This is like the easiest booking of your life.
It really was.
I have nothing to do with my life. If I'm not talking to an A-list celebrity, I am in I'm in a stasis field just waiting. And when I got the tweet, when I got the DM, I was like, "Put me in, coach. I'm ready."
I love it, dude. And we got a chance to do it. How was it? How was the event?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like the movie. I know it's getting divisive reviews. I was really into it. You get your money's worth. I mean, if you're subscribing to Netflix, you don't have to pay a thing anyway. But it's like 9 set pieces in the movie.
Wow.
Like
okay.
it's wall-to-wall action.
Yeah.
Gosling does his like stoic thing.
Right.
Well, Evans is chewing the scenery. Yeah, it played well with the crowd, and yeah, it was like an insane ensemble cast. It was like me and 9 cast members and the Russos.
That's nuts. I saw you think about Billy Bob Thornton. Because I was going to ask you that about with the amount of people that you interview, if you still get starstruck. But you answered that question inside a post. You said that you were kind of starstruck by Billy Bob Thornton.
Well, I get starstruck by them all. Like,
yeah.
People always ask about this.
Yeah.
I just am able to like have like a second sight thing where I'm like, kid Josh is watching from above, being
right.
like geeking out, but in the moment I can pretend like
it's a poker face.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just pretending like they're a human being because they actually are a human being.
Right.
But yeah, when Billy Bob came in right before we started, he was like just the tank top. He smelled like nicotine. He just didn't give a crap. He was just like, I was like, have you seen the movie? He's like, I haven't seen a movie of mine in 20 plus years. I filmed the movie. I go to the premiere, I do the red carpet, and I go home.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
just
you do you, Billy Bob.
And as he's earned it. Oh
my God, the best.
Well, and as we talk about your show with Happy, Sad, Confused, when you get these guests, and what I was thinking about, I was taking a walk, and I knew that I was going to have you on the show, and I started thinking about the things that I wanted to talk to you about. And one of the things that's got to be I watched the thing you did recently with Austin Butler.
Yeah.
And you guys had this rapport already because he knew you beforehand. And it's got to be refreshing to them and to you because it's like, I remember a lot of the times when you're going through the circuit, it's like, well, what show am I doing? You're doing this show. It's a show on the internet. And they're like, okay. And then whoever the talent is going, I don't know who this person is. I don't know. I got to just put on those answers. But when they're with you, they know you. So it's like, oh, yeah, Josh, I've done that before. That's got to be so refreshing for you. It makes it easier for you.
It does. It's a really, really nice advantage to being old, basically, sticking around. No, it honestly is. Like, look, I paid my dues, and I was in it for a while. And then, I've been lucky enough to stick around for a long time. And look, the first 5 or 6 years you're doing, I was doing the short junket slots like everybody else. And then, I stick around, I get more time with the folks. And then just through repetition, through hopefully making a good impression, yeah, there's just such it can't be discounted, that like instant kind of connection. You know, it's also just like having good judgment of like the talent too. It's like, you know, someone like Austin Butler, someone like Jennifer Lawrence I was talking to before she was cast in Hunger Games. Like if you get in with these folks early on, they remember that, and you see them over and over again. And like I will always have these weird bonds with like these actors that before they became huge A-list stars. And yeah, what's been really nice, again, being an old man, is to kind of like go along the ride with everybody. Like I've been on this like peripheral ride with like a lot of A-listers the last 15 years. So it's kind of cool.
That's really great. I mean, it is. And it established that comfortability for both you guys, for all you when you have people coming in, as you mentioned, like when Jennifer Lawrence comes in, she's like, oh, I remember when he made me feel comfortable when I was coming into this thing. And you like to approach interviews the same way I do. You just like to talk to people. Because
that's the secret. As you know, that's all you need to. If you have the ability, and you do, I know you do, to just like relate to a human being as a human being, no matter how big of a star they are. And I think 90% of the time they find it so refreshing when like you are listening, you are locking eyes, you are calling out BS if they say something, not in a rude way.
But you don't have your note card ready for the next question you have to ask. You just go off of what they're saying.
I mean, believe me, I have my note cards too, but that's a security blanket.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like the gold is the stuff that's off the cuff.
Right.
Like I'm not polished. I'm still not polished 15 years in of doing this. Like my questions might not, might have a lot of ums and yeahs and whats, but like at least I'm really engaged and I can zig and zag. I've got the knowledge. You've got the knowledge. Like the people like us, I mean, to toot our own horns for a second, it's people that actually know their shit.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that? Like that's the gold. Like you can't fake it in this business for too long.
Well, they feel it. They feel it inside the interview. They feel it inside the conversation. And I think that's the ums and the ahs and things you're talking about. Though it's so different. Like when we were coming up, like I remember I always tell this story when Mark Ellis and I started Schmoes, and we were like the first YouTube reviewers to get certified by Rotten Tomatoes and get invited to these press screenings. Yeah. And we were sitting at a press screening, and we looked over, and we saw Leonard Maltin, and we said, we don't belong here.
Right.
We don't belong here.
I felt the same way, yeah.
Right, but the difference is, as the crazy internet keeps going on and on and on, we become that kind of standard of, that's what people start to look at, because the ums and ahs are more genuine. People relate to that, and that's why they relate to you.
I came, and you would probably agree, lucked into this at the right time when like authenticity was valued over polish. Where like knowing your stuff was more important than being like the shiny presenter. And thank God, like, I wasn't in the business 20 years ago. Like, when Mary Hart and John Tesh were doing it for Entertainment Tonight, I would not have been hired. But like in this realm, when you just need to know your stuff, be fun, be engaged, that's much more important.
But is it kind of bizarre where you just mentioned all those names? You are that guy for this generation. You really are, man. Like, that's I know insane. It's insane, but it's true from the stuff I remember before we really even knew each other, just seeing you on MTV and the stuff. I would go to your stuff for the Star Wars thing and everything too, because it was like, this is a guy who's just, because like I said, I come up from watching Stern and everything too, and he's to me one of the best.
Authenticity, just like in the moment, that guy, he just
like everything.
He's the gold standard.
And when I saw you, I was like, well, this is someone who comes from that school. This is someone who, and that's why we got along, And then I watch your stuff constantly for not only for what the hell, because I got to cover it a lot of the times.
Sorry,
but no, please don't apologize. But I think that's the thing that people see. You are that guy, and I think it's why you're responding to people. But enough about blowing smoke.
Yeah. No, you can continue, please.
No, I'm kidding. But I more stuff. I want to know about how you got involved in it. Honestly, how you got started and decided, because I know you're a movie guy.
Yeah.
Is that from when you grew up, mom, dad, like family, like the big movie bonding thing?
Yeah. Short version is, so I grew up in New York City, just media sponge. A weird freak of nature that would like buy every newspaper on the way to school. I would I think it was a security mechanism to make sure children didn't play with me. I would have the New York Times, New York Post, New York Daily News. I would have Daily Variety. I don't know. This is when I'm 13 years old, 12 years old. My older brother was very much like me, still is very much like me. We, again, loved movies, double, triple features, watched
just
everything.
a brother? Yeah, or
I have a sister
you have
too.
a sister also.
And she, when she watches me do interviews, she always gets annoyed at me when I don't mention her. So thank you for
You're
that.
You're welcome.
And she was actually a bit of a nerd early on, but maybe she grew out of it.
Yeah.
My brother's about 4.5 years older than me. Did the Star Trek conventions when we were kids.
So was he the Star Trek guy? You're a Star Wars guy, or because or just Who became it's like a Boston and Yankee fan.
Yeah,
at one point,
no. I've never chosen sides. I'm both. I'm both.
That's fair.
And he is both too.
Yeah.
Although like his son is now like usurped us as like a bigger Star Wars fan than both of us, which is insane. Like he knows way more than I do, which I don't get. So like he ended up in the business. He's a writer, a very successful writer. He was a writer on Lost and Once Upon a Time, wrote Tron Legacy. Yeah, crazy. So, and then I went to school and just kind of got into the journalism side of things, college newspaper, college radio.
School in New York?
I went to Hobart William Smith in upstate New York.
Got it.
Small liberal arts school.
Is that also just to get the hell out of the city for a little bit?
I actually would have been happy to stay in New York. I was a late bloomer. I was not a good student. I was relatively intelligent but lazy in high school. And
aren't we all?
Yeah,
a lot of us.
A lot of us, right? And in college, I became so passionate. I was like the editor of the school paper, and I had a very successful radio show, a talk show.
Is that where you came into your own, basically? Did you find your personality and stuff there? Awesome.
1000%. Yeah. I mean, my college radio show, so in summers, I was doing internships. I interned at WNYC, which was the NPR affiliate in New York. And I interned at Charlie Rose, the talk show, the PBS talk show, the maligned, justifiably so, talk show host. And I started my own radio show, and I was like, I kind of learned how to book guests early on from those internships.
How did you do that? So when you say that though, how do you learn to do that?
Well, so I was just a hustler. I remember this is going to date me way back when, but like we were an NPR affiliate in the middle of nowhere. It's a small school in upstate New York, but we were an NPR affiliate, and that was a little kind of like a bragging right. We were near Rochester and Syracuse, two semi-large markets, and I would literally like cold call book publicists. I would fax requests. Wow. I would make my own letterhead. I would say, well, we're an NPR affiliate. We're in the Rochester, Syracuse area.
Use what you got. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I ended up, and they were all like, phoners. They were all phone conversations then. But I ended up like getting everyone from Conan O'Brien to like President Jimmy Carter on that show.
Wow. Who was the first big one though?
You
don't remember the first big one?
I don't remember the first big one. I mean, I did Conan actually in person. I came to New York with my recording equipment, and that was huge because I was a Letterman Conan guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was monumental.
Yeah. That's great. So you're kind of geeking out the first time. Yeah, for
definitely
sure.
Geeked out. Yeah. And then out of school, I actually worked at Charlie Rose. Through my internship, I was a producer there for 4 years.
Damn.
And then I kind of bounced around. I worked in magazines briefly.
But you're like a workaholic like me, right? Where so when you went for college, and if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. But so relationship wise and those things, did it fuck stuff up because you were just kind of going after the radio show, or you're going after everything else, or were you able to maintain?
I was single focused, definitely in college. Like I just poured everything I could first into my college newspaper, but then the radio show became just like everything. Yeah, I was not a social animal. I still am not. I'm like that. Ironically, like given my job, I'm not a social guy.
Isn't that crazy? Like same thing, because people think the same thing with me because I I've done these things, stand up comedian. And things too, but like I remember a lot of times when I go to a party, I just be kind of I don't want to talk. I'm just kind of sitting in the back. Sometimes I can go boom. But sometimes it's just I just want to kind of just be in my own head.
Oh yeah, my natural state is homebody, quiet, shy, but there is a part of me, obviously, given my work, that enjoys the spotlight. I did stand up for a hot minute after college too. Like I definitely had that side, still have that side, and I like both, and I can turn it on. I guess I'm still me when I'm on camera, but it's just a more, I guess, heightened version of me.
Right.
But yeah, to answer your question, I was like laser focused, and then always have been. Like I like too much work. I'm a for good or for bad, I'm a workaholic. I like to be busy, and like I really found my passion in college, and then like. Every job was great. Like every job was like not great, but every job was like really rewarding, and I kind of soaked it all up. And then by the time I got to MTV 2006.
Okay. And did you get that one just same type of thing going hustling for it, or so you know somebody that helped you, recommended you?
No, it's such. I mean, again, I don't want to bore you with a super long story, but the short version is I'd never done anything on camera until I was working as a producer for the John McEnroe talk show, which is the lowest rated, least regarded talk show in the history of talk shows. It was a talk show on CNBC, well known for their late night comedy.
Yeah. So
John McEnroe, well known for his late night comedy.
Right, but wait, and hold this though, because from Charlie Rose to this McEnroe show, politics is where you wanted to go first?
No. I was interested. There was a kind of a fork in the road at one point where I was more considering more of a kind of a serious bent, but entertainment stuff was always really what I was passionate about. But I did love late night talk.
Okay.
And that I was, like I said, I was obsessed with Conan and Letterman, and there was certainly a part of me that wanted to like pursue being a segment producer for like Letterman.
Right.
Like that would have been an amazing career. So when I got the gig, I got a gig as a producer for this new talk show, John McEnroe's late night show, which was going to be a comedy late night talk show. I was so excited. And it only was about 6 months of my life. It was only on the air for about 4 months. I was there for like the 2 months prior to starting. But it was awesome, honestly. Okay. I mean, it was a talk show. It was a late night talk show, guests, comedy bits, studio audience. I got to like really get to be creative, and they actually allowed me to be on camera for the first time. I did a bit, like a character I created on red carpets.
Okay.
Called the Obsequious Correspondent.
Going back and forth with McEnroe?
No. Oh, so this was, he would send me out, and I would go to a movie premiere. And the bit was, I would dress in a tuxedo, and I would be just overly fawning to every celebrity, and not actually have a question.
Yeah.
Like my only interaction would be like, if Paul Rudd comes up to me, it would just be like, "You're awesome," and then just wait for him to respond. I appreciate the laughter. It wasn't very high.
Didn't work.
It was okay. It was fine. But I did again, this dates me. I did like the Life Aquatic premiere, the Wes Anderson film. Yeah, I did a few of those.
That's fun. It reminds me of kind of like the Chris Farley character. From
a bit of that. Yeah.
That's why. Okay, so, and how was working with McEnroe?
Great.
Yeah.
He was, I always say, great guy, super smart guy, just not a great talk show host.
Right.
Like not a great, he wasn't the right fit for him.
Yeah.
But I still see him sometimes at New York events, and he's always very sweet to me. Seems like very proud of me.
Yeah, that's well, cool. Yeah, as he should be. And then so you move. So then MTV.
So I had this like small kind of now tape of me on carpets. I get the gig at MTV. There's some jobs in between there, but I get the gig at MTV through literally, I don't even know if it still exists, Media Bistro, which was a place where people could get like journalism jobs. Right. And it was not an on-camera job. It was the coordinating editor of MTV Movies Digital. Wow. This was when there was a movie. There was the MTV Movies blog and digital.
They're trying to figure out the internet. Everybody was trying to throw things around. Like, what's this? Yeah.
And MTV did not know what they were doing. They were very late to figuring out that like there should be no differentiation really between on-air, linear, and non-linear. It was very separate at the time. So this was the digital side of MTV News. They hired me for some reason. I think I had a personal blog at the time, and they saw my voice and passion for pop culture. Yeah. They took a shot on me. They didn't know I'd done on-camera stuff. Within a year, I remember my boss there one day finding my stuff on YouTube. Okay. My McEnroe bits. Yeah. I heard him like guffawing from across the way and saying like, "Oh, we should maybe use you." And next thing you know, like my first on-camera interview for MTV was when Kurt Loder, the great Kurt Loder, who was still working at MTV then, couldn't make it. He was supposed to interview John Travolta for Wild Hogs.
Wow.
John Travolta was coming in studio, and I had to fill in. And I will never forget. They seated me so close to John Travolta that like our legs were rubbing up against each other, and that was a nervous moment.
I'm sure.
But it went all right, and kind of the rest is history. They used me more and more, and eventually I became a full-time on-air correspondent, and I'm there 3,000 years later.
Isn't that crazy how like just those little things that you just said there, those little moments where one like had you not done that McEnroe show, your producer doesn't see that video, even if you wind up making your way into MTV one way or another anyway, he doesn't see that video, and who knows if you get on camera or not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say also, like, you know, I people ask me all the time for advice, etc. Like the best thing, the stuff that I'm most proud of, the stuff that really has borne fruit has been the stuff that I've started myself. I've put myself out there. I've pushed myself in places that I was uncomfortable in. No one was asking me to do red carpet bits for John McEnroe, but I pitched myself, not in an obnoxious way, but I was like, here's an idea. Yeah. Happy, Sad, Confused, the podcast, no one asked me to create. Like all the stuff, like, I feel like you're a bit of obviously an entrepreneur like me. Like I have that kind of instinct. The best stuff I've done, the stuff that I really feel passionate about, is maybe sometimes within a big media organization,
Right.
but it's the stuff I've kind of created.
100%. We even talked about it a little bit before we started filming and your show, because I do it. There's a couple of things I want to ask you about what's going on in pop culture at the moment, but with your show. So why the decision to go first on Patreon and not go, because you didn't start by putting it public, right? You started on Patreon?
Yeah. So, I mean, not much of a rhyme or reason. I can't say I'm very strategic, very smart strategically in terms of like disseminating my stuff.
Right.
People had been putting in my ear the last few years, like, oh, you should go on Patreon. I'm like, yeah, like, you know, I felt like, oh, is there a stigma around that, you know, whatever. And I had to kind of get over that. And then I realized, like, oh, no, I could make more content, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously.
You're selling something.
Yeah.
So that's what you do. It's a business.
It's what we do. And so it became just like an opportunity to, I was telling you before we started, like Happy, Sad, Confused, which is the podcast I created 8 years ago. And it's kind of, it was created out of a need and want to do long form conversations because I was doing junkets wall to wall. And that's like, even at MTV, that was maybe an 8 or 10 minute interview, which, as you know, is actually a long interview by the standards of junkets.
Absolutely.
But I still wanted deeper conversations. And by then I had connections in the industry and I knew I could get guests. So I started the podcast and it's 400 plus episodes. We're still going. And, you know, again, because I'm a workaholic and I'm crazy, I'm like, okay, let's do more and more and more.
Yeah.
Created the Patreon. And it also kind of happened in tandem, frankly, with the pandemic.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah.
Because I had never done the podcast on camera.
Right.
Partially, again, because like there is that talk, and it's true. There's a different kind of intimacy when there aren't cameras trained on you for many folks. Yeah. But the necessity of the pandemic was we were doing podcasts via Zoom.
Yep.
Suddenly I had this content. So that became an additive thing I could offer on the Patreon. It was an easy win.
Especially if you get to, and the footage is all yours.
It's all mine.
See. Yeah.
So yeah, that's been Patreon, and then I started a thing called Happy, Sad, Confused Game Night, which again, just leveraging like these relationships I have, and I can just kind of like screw around with like celebrities I know and play games. Why not? I enjoy it. The folks on Patreon seem to enjoy it. And then lately, again, I'm like literally the last human being. It sounds like almost absurd to say. I'm like, I'm starting a YouTube page, but I have this library of content. So I recently started my YouTube page, and
is it the Josh Horowitz channel, or is it Happy, Sad, Confused?
I decided Josh Horowitz. Did I make the wrong call? Should I have called it Happy, Sad, Confused?
Not necessarily. No, I mean it's one of those things where you could put. I actually think that's when I left Collider. I started SEN Live, which is the Schmoedown Entertainment Network, and then there was just that show was, I was just so used to doing whether it's Schmoes or Collider Live and that type of brand and doing it that way, because I'd been doing Schmoes since 2008 and it'd been like a brand of just a name of a band, really, basically what it was. And not until recently it was like, well, because Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman and John Campia, I'm like, I'm gonna run my name and that
That's
people
the commonality. I mean,
it's because there's some people that you wouldn't maybe recommend that to, but you've established your name. People know your name. People trust your interviews. So, and I think that and look, your show's doing great right now. But what if one day your stuff starts to become the Josh Horowitz show, and you decide not to do that? Then you got to switch it all up again.
Yeah, I could have gone either way. I was wrestling with it, but yeah, as you say, like, who knows? I mean, Happy, Sad, Confused, I think could continue in any number of different incarnations. But bottom line, even if it doesn't, my name will be my name.
100%.
So why not?
So did you interview Taika Waititi recently?
I didn't actually get him recently.
Okay.
But saw the new movie. Big fan of him.
Okay. What did you think of the movie?
Mixed. I'm mixed.
Same.
I'm not on the extreme ends like on the internet where everyone's like love or hate it.
Yeah.
Certainly preferred Ragnarok. More uneven. Look, Taika always is like that fine line, like earnest and really funny and kind of wild swings, and I appreciate that. And I think sometimes by the nature of those wild swings, some of them are going to hit better than others. And this one didn't quite coalesce as much for me, but I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, it's fun. I just think the same thing. I saw an interview where they were interviewing Kevin Feige, and they asked him about how Captain America Winter Soldier was like the spy thriller movie, and even Doctor Strange had like a horror element. They said, "What's this one?" He goes, "This is a Taika movie," and I went, "Uh-oh." And I like Taika Waititi a lot. I think he's hilarious. But he didn't write Ragnarok.
Right.
He wrote this one, and when you give him the free reins, he's gonna go, "Well, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do me."
Yeah.
He did him.
It's a full-on Taika Waititi.
It's a Taika
movie, for
Waititi,
good or for bad.
Yeah. It's like Meet the Spartans sometimes, though.
It's a scene where I'm not sure I was so. Everyone seems to like the Russell Crowe stuff more than me.
I can't stand that.
Okay,
scene.
good.
I thought it was so goofy.
I just didn't like what he was doing. I like Russell Crowe. I wasn't into it.
But that's Taika's fault.
Yeah.
Taika could say cut that out. No. And he told him to do more of it, like the thing when he's going down the stairs. Yeah. But
I would have taken. I would take Cate Blanchett and Goldblum over and Ruffalo.
1,000,000%.
Russell Crowe and what they did here, and Hiddleston in the first. I just like
there was a balance. Yeah. There was a balance. Like people are like, oh, there's no, the balance is the same here. But you're crazy. The balance between the stuff that he lost, whether it's losing Odin in Ragnarok, the stuff with Hela coming back, and the kind of vengefulness that she's got, and which the loss of Asgard, like there's all there.
Well, and ironically, maybe my stuff I've only seen it once, but stuff maybe I really related to or just connected with more was the emotional stuff.
Yes,
I thought like the cancer stuff with Natalie Portman worked.
Yep.
She's obviously a great dramatic actor, and you have a history with that character. And yeah, I mean, like I said, like Taika's very funny, but like a lot of his stuff is very earnest and sweet. Hunt for the Wilder People, etc. Like I love that stuff. And I mean, Jojo Rabbit, etc. Yeah. So ironically, in the new film, I didn't think the comedy worked as well as the straight stuff. It was
hard. It was Fast and Furious for 45 minutes. And by the time you get into, and I don't mean Fast and Furious the movie, I mean Fast and Furious the humor itself.
Right.
When it comes in, it's hitting you by that. And there's a couple, whether it's gore or some stuff with the setup with Jane, but you don't really start to get into the emotional moments until like 45 minutes in. And
and I look, I don't want to be one of those guys that's bashing the movie. I like the movie on the whole.
It's fun. It's fun.
But I also, there is a thing. Look, there's the thing about Ragnarok being like a fresh thing, right? It was like the first time we were seeing a full-on kind of comedic take on Thor. And honestly, and maybe this is like an indictment of me, but like once this movie started, I was like, oh wait, like Thor's a joke now. Like I can't take him seriously.
He's goofball now.
And I
he's Spicoli.
I love Hemsworth, and I think he's like insanely talented as a comedic performer. But like, I don't know, like, oh, I want to take you a little seriously, and I can't take you seriously anymore.
He's not the one. He's not the serious one in it. It's either you get to really choose either between Gore or Jane. Those are the two, and even Valkyrie's got more, I think, essence, or he's kind of the punchline now.
Yeah,
and it's goofy. But anyway, the reason I also brought up Taika is because as I said, I go to you a lot of the times when I'm looking for Star Wars scoops and the Star Wars stuff that you get out, because you did that thing with Gary Oldman recently. With the Grievous. And I had heard about that, but I never really heard him confirm it because it'd been out there forever.
Yeah. I've loved to do a couple of those. The Matt Smith thing.
Yes.
I got a chance to talk about
that. And that was the thing. I would on my old show on Jedi Council. I would say if Matt Smith, because he's like, I'm not in this movie. I'm like, if he shows up, he's a liar, right? Mm-hmm. And he had done stuff, and he had been talking about it. So people were like, is he a liar? He wasn't in it. I'm like, it doesn't mean they didn't cut stuff out. But that for sure. But I asked about the Taika stuff because there's this crazy thing that we keep hearing. Kathleen Kennedy at one point says it's coming out in 2023. And then they asked Taika what the movie is. He's like, I haven't written it yet. Now there's a report that he's shooting it in the beginning of 2023. They're going to get this movie out by December 2023. No chance.
Unlikely. I agree. Unlikely. I do think, look, I think reading between the lines, and I don't have necessarily inside scoop on this one, but this is just like judging from my experience. Reading between the lines, I feel like there's more there than he's letting on. Like there's an outline, there's a draft, there's something.
Right.
But is it green lit? No.
Right.
But is Kathleen Kennedy eyeing it? Is it the one most likely to go into production next? Sounds like yes.
Yeah.
But certainly, I would not count on going to see a Star Wars movie directed by Taika Waititi in next fall.
I don't think so, and I think Lucasfilm does this all the time. They jump ahead of stuff way too fast and it seems whether it's Colin Trevorrow or different, they always announce or Josh Trank, and they always announce these movies like right before something happens, or a movie's the Benioff and Weiss doing their movie, and then and I'm not saying this is why it happens, but it seems a lot of times, whether something is kind of ill-received or they're excited for the next big movie coming out. Patty Jenkins for her movie.
Well, I'm fascinated by that, like that the Rian Johnson trilogy still, like they still refuse to say. Have they officially said it's completely off?
No, because they don't want to admit that there's no chance that thing comes out.
Right? But
no
like,
chance.
Why would Ryan just not, like, Ryan's got a ton going on. He can say it in a diplomatic way, like, hey, I'm busy. You know what? If it happens down the road, great, but it's not. It's not. Like,
I don't know. Maybe it's something in the deal. I don't know. Maybe
weird.
Who knows what it is? But it's like, for him, what does he have to say anything for?
And he shouldn't. No. Given what he went through on Last Jedi, what he still goes through.
Right.
Like and I'm a Last Jedi lover. Like, you know, I know this is opening up a can of worms, but But like, why would he ever go back to Star Wars after what he went through?
You know what's crazy about that? Because I'm not a Last Jedi fan, but I always acknowledge, I think it's one of the better made Star Wars films as far as a film goes. Very similar to when you say that's a Taika movie or that's a Shane Black movie, Fireman 3. That's a Rian Johnson movie. For me, a lot of people will disagree with me, and I'm sure we could do 2 hours on it. But he's a phenomenal television director. Whether it's Breaking Bad, some of the best Breaking Bad, the Osmondius and the stuff that he did, he's phenomenal. If someone, as much as I don't like The Last Jedi, if someone said, hey, Favreau and Filoni wrote this script for Mandalorian and Johnson's going to come in, the internet would lose their minds and go bananas. And I'd say, bring it on. Did you not watch Breaking Bad?
Well, and I do think that what you're saying alludes to something that I would love to see Star Wars do. And it seems like they're doing maybe a little bit of at least, which is, look, I think Favreau and Filoni have done a good job. I think they'll like a lot of the TV stuff. But I do think there needs to be a loosening of reins where other creatives have some ownership. And it seems like that's going to happen on Andor, I think.
Isn't it crazy that show looks like it could be the best? Well, I don't know where you stand on the other two, but like this could be the best series of the year out of the Star Wars ones.
I'm excited right before each one comes out, of course. But like, I trust in Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy is a very smart filmmaker and writer, and the fact that there's like a big plan for it, they're like 5 seasons planned. They've already shot 2 or something, and it has a different look. It has like a kind of a more of a, I don't know if they shot it using the same volume technology, etc., but it looks different. It has more of a practical location.
It looks more like it matches up to Rogue One than it does the series,
which I'm totally vibing with. So yeah, like I'm very mixed. I mean, I like Mandalorian, all right. I'm a fan of all that stuff, but I'd like to see other strong filmmakers put their voice on Star Wars.
So the Gilroy thing, this is something the other day, no one ever brings this up, and I got to get your take on it because I said this the other day. Gilroy comes on to basically save Rogue One. That's what the big rumor is.
And we still have never gone really to the bottom of that. We don't really know exactly what happened.
And they're even spoofing and talking about it in The Boys. I don't know if do you watch The Boys?
I haven't watched the new season.
So this is season.
I think I watched first season.
It was either the beginning of season 3 or in season 2. Okay. There's a scene where there's something happens inside the scene, and someone says, Tony Gilroy did all your reshoots and but that obviously is the gag. What happened, and people who deny it. This is what I said the other day. People who go, no, it was definitely Gareth Edwards. I don't know Gareth Edwards. I met him once. He was the sweetest guy, super nice. It's not saying anything against him, but here's the question that I pose: if he wasn't saved, if there wasn't problems, then why hasn't the guy done major things afterwards? It's like he just kind of, I don't know if he might have done some projects, but you'd figure a guy that did a movie that made over $1 billion would be getting offered things left and right.
It's a good point. There's definitely probably a tainted something associated with there, and I find it fascinating, those kind of projects that like we still haven't gotten the full story on. I'd love to know the extent of it. Was Gareth even on set for the reshoots? Was he involved at all? Did he lose control totally of the picture?
Was he out and they just wanted to keep it kind of quiet, because maybe he played ball better than Trevorrow did or Lord Miller did? Those guys certainly were like, F this. We're gonna. This sucked.
Yeah, even those guys. Yeah, I had them on the podcast a few months back, and they're so sweet, and you can't get anything real out of them about the Star Wars thing.
There's probably an NDA they signed or something. Probably because you can tell and after seeing, again, a full debate on whether whatever Solo came out, I thought it was fine. Yeah, it was fine. Yeah. And I remember at the time having that concern that I now have for a Taika Waititi Star Wars film of, is it going to be a Lord Miller kind of comedy? But now after seeing what they did with I know they didn't direct Spider-Verse, but they certainly had a lot to do with it.
Sure.
I'm curious what that would have been like.
Yeah, that's one of the great unknowns. I don't know. I don't know what it would have been. Solo's a fascinating one. I actually think Solo grows in my estimation as the years go by. Okay. It's totally solid. It's not great, but I like it. I like that it's now an outlier. We're not going to get, it seems like, a lot of those kind of one-off Star Wars movies anymore.
Scared of them now because it was the only one that got hit in the pocket.
And I'd rather get just a self-contained. I mean, we're just a wash and too much. Now I'm
trilogies and stuff. You mean?
No, I'm talking about TV now. I'm just gonna be the old man on the porch for a second. It's both Marvel and Star Wars, that whole thing where I'm just too much. In my day, there wasn't so much, and there's more special, and it's just there's too much.
I don't think there's a lot. I don't think there's many people who. I think there's a lot of people who feel the same way that you do. I don't, only because I'm a Marvel.
More. It's just
Star Wars for me, but you're 100% right. The problem with the too much is that you run the risk of getting things like when Mandalorian 1 and 2, I love. Like I love that series. I think it's some of the best stuff since Jedi. That's then you do Boba Fett and people go, "Dah," right? And except the Mandalorian episodes inside of Boba Fett are the best episodes. And then Obi-Wan is just poised to be this great thing because it's Obi-Wan.
Sure.
And it's okay.
It's okay.
And I think that's right. And that's where your argument can come in and go, well, there's so much of it that you're putting out too much and you can get the burnout. But I still think, going back to your original point, the amount of the directors and the story, I think they're like, did you see any of those fan edits that they did of Obi-Wan?
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah, I haven't seen it. No.
It's good, and it just cuts out. It's all their story, but it just cuts out a lot of the fat. It brings it into like a 2.5-hour movie. Honestly, you could just do 5 episodes at half an hour instead of the 6 that they wind up doing. Yeah. It adds some of the original kind of John Williams stuff combined with the score that they have now, and it's just I just think that there are certain choices that are made. And this is easier said than done, but if the choices are made differently, too much is. You're not even going to have that concern because Boba Fett was fantastic, and then so was Obi-Wan. I think you'd have less a concern of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's just that it's more scattershot. I'm just like, I'd rather have less things that I love than more things that I like.
I can't argue with it. I mean, I can't argue with it. I'm always excited about seeing a new Star Wars project because I'm excited because I don't think I've had and I've said this and people yell at me when I say this, but I continue to say it. I don't think we've had a great Star Wars thing since Jedi. I think Mandalorian is really good. And I love it. And it teeters on great for me.
Yeah.
And people go, what about Rogue One? Really good.
Oh, see, Rogue One I think is great.
I think it's really good.
And I think Last Jedi is great.
I think Rogue One is really good.
I know. And are you a Rise of Skywalker guy?
That's cotton candy to me. It's cotton candy. It's just kind of. Do I love it? Could you tell me that we never have to see that movie ever again? I don't love it. Okay. I just think if you're going to say which one would you rather watch, see you later. I'm taking Rise of Skywalker, man, and I know it's just the problem with Last Jedi when I watch it, it just gets worse for me because I just don't like a lot of the decisions and choices that were made. Like, and we're talking Marvel, the Marvel humor that drives me crazy is the stuff in the beginning with Poe. It's like your mom's on the phone. It's like that kind of stuff. There's no consistency in character.
You're right. This could be a 6-hour conversation.
100%. We could talk. We could
save it for the sequel.
100%. We could do a lot of that stuff. But before we get running to the next topic here, I also wanted to tell you guys about Athletic Greens. Have you tried Athletic Greens, by the way, Josh?
I'm staring at it here. I'm ready.
You can take one of those with you, by the way. They're so good. I've been using them, and everybody now has been writing me how they've been using it, and they've been loving it, and continue to do that. Put that in the comments, and I send that over to them and let them know that you guys are checking out and digging it. Last night, needed some energy. Boom. Got myself some Athletic Greens. If you didn't know, for a lot of people who are always looking, I'm not a big vitamins guy. I've told you that many times, and I wanted something that was going to give me better gut health. I needed more energy, optimized immune system, all of it. And I'm not a pills, vitamins. I never could find it, and I couldn't stay consistent with it. I wanted a supplement, and it tastes really good. It looks like grass, but it doesn't taste like that. It's got kind of a fruity taste to it, and I really love it. It's one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, and you take in 75% of high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, all of it. I put it in a water bottle. I shake it up, and it gives me my boost of energy. I dig it, and it helps like sleep quality too. That's been helping me a lot. I see that in the comments. A lot of people were curious about it because I've been talking about it so much. They use it, they love it. It's great, and it supports mental clarity and alertness. It costs you less than $3 a day. You invest in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's got over 7,000 5-star reviews, and it is recommended by professional athletes. So reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's all you got to do. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy for you, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. But you have to go to athleticgreens.com/bigthing. One more time, athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Yeah, man, I love it. And for those people who want to help out the show, that's how you do it. But you help yourself out. Honestly, get yourself some Athletic Greens. I'm down to my last one after I give Josh. I got a ton in my house, but I'm saying for new people to come in. So it's good stuff. Yeah, you should check it out, Josh.
I'm sold. I'm kind of on a health kick, so this could be the next phase.
Yeah, you'll love it. Anyway, so Gray Man last night, you and Ryan Gosling, you posted a thing. You guys.
So let's see. Gray Man last night. Cast of Thousands. I'm doing Gosling today, actually.
Oh, okay.
For MTV.
Okay, and you had interviewed him a ton of times.
I have interviewed him a ton of times. There was a period of time where I was pretty sure he hated me.
Why?
Because about a decade ago, do you remember do you remember Hey Girl, the meme Hey Girl at all?
No.
Okay, so Hey Girl was photos of Ryan Gosling that people would just kind of put like Hey Girl and like a phrase on. And I interviewed him for Crazy Stupid Love, and I showed him a bunch of the photos, and it became like gigantic, millions of views, et cetera. And then like there was a long period of time where I was not getting interviews with him, and I was like, And I heard I heard third hand, like, oh, maybe he hates the Hey Girl thing, maybe he associates you with it. I did run into him at a party for First Man a couple years ago. Great catch up. Couldn't have been nicer. Last night couldn't have been nicer. I am sitting down with him today, so I'll report back. We'll see how we're doing.
Wait, have you not? You haven't gotten to the bottom of it? If he was,
I'm debating whether to mention it in the conversation.
You have to. You have to. We got to find out first of all. And what a I
don't want to wait another 7 years.
That's the one he's like. If you never would have brought it up again, you would have got another interview.
I'm going to blame you.
Hilarious. You should blame me for sure. Everybody else does. That's great. So speaking of which, have you gotten into those other? Because every time I look at the stuff that you do, it seems like which is why you do so well. It seems like you've been friends with everybody, right?
History. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah. But are there people that, like you said, whether it's that Gosling type thing, any beefs?
Okay, so Gosling was not a real beef, but I was worried for a while, but we're clearly fine. Who was a beef? Oh, there's a good one. Michael Fassbender, who we're fine now. It's all good. We can laugh about it. Yeah. So do you remember the movie Shame he was in? Yeah. A great movie.
Great
Steve
score.
McQueen.
Great score, too, by the way.
Fantastic. Yeah. He was also very nude in the film, and I interviewed him for Shame. And
very nude. As a guy walks to the right and knocks over a potted plant.
Exactly. Yeah. God bless him. God bless him. So, so back in the day, I was much more kind of ballsy, walking into junkets and just doing crazy games. Like this was kind of how I made my name early in the day. Like where I would just I don't know what I was thinking. I would just come up with like crazy stuff. Yeah. And sometimes it would work. Sometimes it wouldn't. Sometimes a publicist would be so angry at me. Now I'm a little older, wiser, whatever. So I'll vet things, or I have better judgment, etc. So I did a game with him where at the Shame Junket of all things, very serious movie, and I printed out a bunch of nude male celebrities from films, from like famous like Viggo Mortensen,
Gigolo or something.
Viggo Mortensen and Eastern Promises.
Oh, right.
And I would block out their faces, and I would have him show him the penis and say, "Can you tell me which celebrity this was?"
It didn't go over well, huh?
No. So it did go over. Okay, well. It went over very well. And the video's probably up somewhere still. Yeah. Did very well. I did it again with him at the Golden Globes red carpet. Okay. More celebrity penises. Showed him. Yep, there are a lot of them out there.
So and at this point, he's going along with it, having a good time.
Still good, laughing, all good, all good. Flash forward. A few months later, MTV Movie Awards, which is one of my prime gigs, they usually have me either hosting the carpet or backstage. And I think I was backstage. We were live, and he comes up to me. And now here's the context. I did not know. So this has been months now since Shame came out. Apparently, in those intermittent months, he was tired of all the penis jokes. He had become and literally, apparently, he had said to MTV, Russell Brand was hosting that year. He was like, I don't want to hear any jokes from Russell Brand or anybody else about the penis thing. He was promoting Prometheus at the time. Okay. I interviewed him. Well, again, this is live, and I said this was just such a lame, not even a good joke. Yeah. And I just said something like, "Is it true the secret of Prometheus is that's what you call your penis?" And he just looked at me and he just goes like, "Really? With that again? Really?"
That's on the video.
Hopefully, it's not anywhere on online. I pray. Please don't look it up. And I just hear in my ear. I have my IFB from the truck.
Bail from the penis. Bail from the penis.
They're really like end the interview.
What did he say?
End the interview.
Oh, end the interview. They were done. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
So I end the interview, and sure enough, I did not talk to Michael Fassbender for a few years. Damn. And I had to smooth things over with his publicist, and I've interviewed him a bunch since, and he's actually lovely. And Alicia Vikander, I got to know too, and so like we're all good. But there was a period of time.
But that, but even that, it was like it's not like there was this big mandate you knew about the mandate that you want to do it. So and you throw it out there.
You take some risks. Sometimes they don't
take
work.
A shot. You like you said with Taika, you swing.
Big swings.
You take a big swing. All right, but nothing. But those types of things. But nothing where you've interviewed somebody inside of the interview, they've gotten kind of pissy about it, and that's it. Because there are people that are notoriously not friendly.
Well, absolutely, and I guess I'm in a privileged position where I know who those people are.
Right.
And
Tommy Lee Jones.
I've never interviewed Tommy Lee Jones,
and
that is a conscious decision.
I didn't either. Yeah.
I mean, maybe if they offered him to me, I'd be like, at this point in my career, I'd be like, okay, I'll take the challenge. I'll do it. But like, here's an example of one that I kind of consciously avoided.
Yeah.
For the podcast, and I'd done him like in short form. I did Christoph Waltz.
Yeah,
Christoph Waltz is kind of a tough interview, and his publicist liked me and was like, "Oh, you should do him for the podcast." And I was like, and I finally
like an hour to talk to him, right?
45 minutes usually. Yeah. And he came in, sat in my office, and he was great. Honestly, he was great.
But the thing is with that, everything that you just said there made me realize why though. It's a lot of the times, and I don't know if this is factual, but you could assess it this way. So the junkets, we've both done them. They're grueling for not just for the press, but especially for the talent. They got to sit there and they got to answer the same shit over and over and over again with some people that know what they're doing and others who don't. So they're doing that all day. I'm not telling you it's a reason why. I'm not telling you that they should be miserable, but I'm just telling you it could be a reason why.
Yeah.
Right. So as opposed to, I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk to this guy in his office for 45 minutes and have a conversation like a human. I talked to Richard Dreyfuss for 2.5 hours on Collider Live. And we just, Josh, if I said more than 15 minutes worth of stuff in 2.5 hours, but I didn't care. Yeah. I just wanted to hear him talk and listen to it. And I was in awe of his stories.
Well, he probably could sense that, and that you knew your shit and that you respected him. And that, I mean, you just kind of hit the nail on the head. The secret is, like, a lot of the junket people are horrible at what they do, and they don't know the stuff. And it's like, if you talk to if a celebrity talks to 40 outlets in one day, 25 of them could be like literally reading from a card, not engaged, not know their body of work. And so like, if you happen to be one of the ones that knows what they're doing, you're unfortunately kind of like associated with all the crappy ones.
Yeah.
So if I get them off junket in my office, 45 minutes, I convey that I know their work, respect their work. I'm like dropping references in a natural way to film knowledge. Like, I can relax. I can be a human being. I can trust this person.
See, you earned being able to quit junkets and do the long podcast. I didn't earn it. I just quit doing it. And because the thing is, I was working for Fandango at one point, and I did The Force Awakens, and I got to interview everybody. But Harrison Ford was the big one. And I remember having conversations, like I was asking questions and they gave me a card. I went off the card and I did my own thing.
Yeah.
And I did it because that's why, and I started to talk, and I had 4 minutes. Right. And I started to talk to them in the way that I would here. And I started getting notes from the producers, and they were like, well, when you ask just one question, go to it. And I said to them plain blank, that's not my style.
Yeah.
I said, it's not my style.
You. Yeah.
And I said, all right, if you're going to have a long intro and you want to cut around it, but it's going to get me into a better bit, and those bits, I mean, I did a thing with Stallone where I just had, and Rocky's like, I don't know what I'm choosing. We've seen that in Star Wars sometimes.
Wow.
And I mean, Rocky was just something growing up as a kid. But to have Stallone, and I was like, I wish I could talk to Stallone for an hour. Do you have ever Stallone on?
I've never had a long form chat with him. He's a tough one to get. He's a tough one. I'd love to.
Clearly, only got that because of Fandango when I was there. And I had that, but it's one of my favorites. Like, if someone said, which one of your favorite interviews? Stallone. I had an Italian stallion shirt on that my brother gave me, and I showed him, and he goes, "But look at that chest." And I go, "The chest is an embarrassment." And I made him laugh, and I was like, I just made Stallone laugh, and then he was like, his story in general is like it's stuff of legends. I had done a thing of the latest Rambo, where I talked about it on Collider Live, and he cut it out of the show and put it on his Instagram. Yeah, that was like, to me, that's the geek out stuff that we talk about.
Oh yeah. I always say, like, I mean, I get the most excited about the folks that I grew up with. Kurt Russell in my office for an hour talking about, like, I literally had a Big Trouble in Little China poster behind me.
That's cool.
He's quoting Jack Burton to me in the voice. Like, I'm like, I
Oh,
can.
that's cool.
I can.
Yeah, that's
This
cool.
is it.
Is that the one? So it was Conan.
Letterman, in terms of influences, you were saying?
No. As far as geeking out, like being Kurt Russell. So who are some of the ones that and again, so you ever have Pacino?
Yeah, Pacino's been on the podcast twice.
Dude, I got to listen to those.
You should listen.
I will listen. I will listen to those.
Crazy.
I absolutely will listen.
Pacino was a major one.
Oh, dude.
Pacino's a major one. Warren Beatty did the podcast.
That's great.
Crazy major for me.
Yeah.
Tarantino's done the podcast a couple times.
He likes to do. He's kind of checked into
more into that now.
He's checked into this world, and he's
Yeah.
smart for doing. That's why he's who he is, because he
Yeah.
understands. He's a pivot guy. He's a pivot,
and he listens. He
Yeah.
Knows if and when you get him.
I would love
he's
to,
he's gonna do his research and know your stuff.
He knew Schmoes. They reached out to do Schmoes for what Hateful Eight, I think.
Okay.
And we had dates booked, and it just because it was during that time he was doing a lot of stuff, and it got rescheduled a couple of times, and then we just lost him. But it was
he's referenced to me. He's like, "Oh yeah, my movie was on your top 10 last year." I'm like, "What? I don't know my top 10 list last year."
It's great.
Yeah.
So those are some. So again, who was the most recent one that you just did?
That's a great question. I have Chris Pratt coming. I recorded him. He's this week.
Okay.
What did I do? Oldman was a big one recently.
Right.
Oldman had been on the list for a while.
Do you get into stuff like with Pratt, right? Because all the stuff he's talked about, how the internet was like really crushed him with that stuff. He's talked about get this whole religious thing that kind of came up too.
Yeah.
Do you try to avoid that type of stuff, or it depends on, again, the conversation or how it comes up?
It depends. I mean, in this case, this was a very first, my interview happened before he kind of addressed that stuff. Second, I had, by my standards, a very short amount of time. I was supposed to get 30 minutes. I only got 20 minutes. Again, I know first class problems, whatever. But by the standards of my podcast, it was not the form of my podcast.
Zoom or in person?
It was Zoom.
Okay.
But I mean, I understand some of the criticism and whatever about Chris, but he's actually, in my experience, and I can only speak from my personal experience, top 5 nicest human beings, best people on the planet, has been very kind to me on and off camera. And I don't think he's got a mean, bigoted bone in his body. Maybe there's some association through his religion, through some really things he wouldn't support, but I think he's a good dude.
Yeah, I've never, for anyone who ever has worked with him or been around him, interviewed him, never heard a bad thing. Only the bad stuff that I've heard are the stuff that people will kind of back and forth that happens on Twitter. Yeah, which is everything.
But to answer your general question, I'm not afraid to go to uncomfortable, weird places, and it's just if you can get in a human way. I mean, I hate nothing more than someone saying something's off limits. But my general for the podcast especially is a very genial, familiar tone, and it's not a gossipy. It's really about the work generally. Right. But there have been instances. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff with Shia before his latest issues, and we talked about stuff.
And you brought stuff up. So let's say you had Vin Diesel or Justin Lin on, right? If you had them. So because that's inside of our space, because I normally try to stay away from a lot of it too as far as reporting it, but I did cover when it was Amber Heard and Ezra Miller. I didn't cover the trial, but when it came to Amber Heard and Ezra Miller, of whether or not they're going to get replaced or whether or not what Warner Brothers is thinking for either one of them, I talked about that. So if you had Justin Lin or Vin Diesel on, would you go down that road?
If I had Justin Lin on, I would 1,000% say and it would be a very it would be are you and Vin good? What's the deal? I would just keep it that kind of a thing, and just again speak like a human being. Yeah. Maybe not be super specific what happened on this day. Did he not show up or whatever? But I would. Yeah, I would go there. Vin is an odd one. Vin, as we all know, Vin is a very unique character.
He is Triple X.
Vin is on his own wavelength, and I don't even know if it's possible, honestly, to break through and have that kind of conversation with him, even if I tried to go there. He's actually done the podcast, and has been very nice to me. But I think the podcast, I maybe asked him in 45 minutes 4 questions. It was 4 monologues from Vin. So I don't know. He's a hard one to break through and really have a real conversation with. He's kind of has his things he wants to convey.
Well, he's also speaking of Tarantino being locked in, he's uber locked in. Like, he knows social media. He's one of those guys, whether it's him, Rock. People don't give Dane Cook enough credit, by the way, when it comes to
back in the day.
social media. He was the one who really built his brand.
That, yeah.
He used that stuff, MySpace. He was one of those kind of first guys to really do it. But Vin Diesel's very locked in.
Oh, yeah.
So Vin
Wasn't
Diesel,
he like the first like Facebook Live guy?
yeah. So he probably knows your stuff inside and out. I remember when we were on Movie Talk, he was watching Movie Talk and he knew all those things. So he's locked into it as well. So he also knows how to put on a face.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find Vin endlessly entertaining. I mean, he's an absurd human being, but I find him so enjoyable, almost more than like as an actual performer, just as a human being. I remember I moderated. I moderated the last Witch Hunter panel at New York Comic Con.
Oh, wow.
And I remember I was interviewing him the day before, and he did this with every single junket journalist. As they would start the interviews, he would say, we have speed starting, and most people have like 4 or 5 minutes, and he would be like, before we start, Josh, what was your favorite thing about the last Witch Hunter? So like every journalist would be forced into this horrible situation where he'd be like about this kind of crappy movie having to say something semi-nice. So he has like this. What did you say? He has this like sizzle reel of like every journalist being like, Michael Caine was awesome.
But that's my point. That's how locked in he is, because he knows what he's got to do.
Totally smart.
100% he is. He's like, say something great about my movie, even if you think it stinks.
He did it.
Oh,
and I probably did. I don't remember what I said, but I said something.
Because he knows. He puts you on the spot.
What am I gonna say?
He knows how to use it. He's a politician inside that way, man. He really is. And you don't give him enough credit because you see this kind of bouncer guy.
Yeah.
He is. From everything I've heard about him, he's a character, right? Yeah. He's someone you probably could, like you said, have that Richard Dreyfuss kind of go. Just go.
He's got stories. He's great.
Yeah, just go. There's so many of those for sure. All right, I'm here with Josh Horowitz. Make sure. Check it out, and they can find it. I know that they can. Obviously, they go to Patreon.
Sure.
Is it patreon.com/Josh Horowitz?
It's actually patreon.com/HappySadConfused.
Okay.
You can, of course, the podcast is Happy Sad Confused. That's for free for everybody.
Just the audio they can get.
Just the audio.
They can get that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all
Everywhere.
that stuff. I'm going to put a link in the description
cool.
also, so make sure, and I'll put an iCard for you guys to check out. And if you're not following Josh on Twitter, he also posts a lot of his interviews and clips there. I guarantee you, if you didn't know beforehand, if you went and you found out reports of breaking news stories that happened, a lot of the times they're coming from this guy, from his interviews that he's doing. So you should check it out. I watch his stuff all the time, and you should do it. But next time, when are you coming back into town?
I'm not sure. I'm going to be at Comic-Con. Sandy, I'm going to see you there. You're going to
I'm not going this year. I went to Celebration in D23 this year, and I'm going to take Comic-Con off because, from my thing is, because you're probably going to interview everybody and their mother there, right? See, I'm going to, normally what I would do, I would cover like Hall H and watch the exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
They put everything online now anyway.
I know.
So,
I get it.
Yeah.
I had to skip Celebration this year. I was bummed. I had some family stuff, and I think I'm going to miss D23 because it's the Toronto Film Festival, and I have to make like a Sophie's Choice.
You're going to get more. You're going to get more out of that one.
Yeah, I mean, like I have two sides. Like I have the geek brain, but I also love like my prestige fall film.
Yeah, we didn't even get to talk about that. We didn't get to talk about that today.
You
got Scorsese's new thing coming up. So that's the end of the year.
That's fall. Yeah,
it's fall. So much coming out. We didn't talk about David Chase. That's what I'm going to let you go with, David Chase.
Okay.
So for people who didn't know, Josh. I reached out to Josh in like 2020, I think, the end of 2020, to be on the Movie Trivia Schmodown because I just wanted to know if he was going to be interested, and he was. And he was humble about it. Not only was he interested, he was awesome. He was really good. He played.
Damn you, Griffin Newman!
He's your arch rival now. Do you run into him at all?
No, I haven't. I would love to. I mean, I respect Griffin. He's great, but man, he gave me a whooping in Brooklyn.
I know. He just won the tag titles too.
Yeah, I believe it. He's awesome.
He's really good. He's really good. But that was a lot of fun at the in the being live, and that's where we had this conversation where Josh was kind enough because he was doing New York Comic Con. He's like, yeah, I can come out and I can do the New York event also, and he played Griffin. But in the dressing room, it was right when Many Saints were coming out, and you had just interviewed David Chase.
Yeah.
And so I'd watched his interview, and he said he wasn't gonna. It wasn't going to do any more Sopranos or anything along those lines.
He was
and
very adamant. He was like, no more TV. Like, I have no interest in TV. Literally, I have no interest.
Yeah, and I had that conversation with him. I said, don't you think that he should do something? And he just said, yeah, but I just don't think he's going to do it.
Right.
And then there's this report, it was like a month later,
Yeah.
that said that HBO Max was like going to dump a truck of money in his backyard, and he was going to do it. But then I heard another report that he's not going to do it. So where do you think it stands? Are we going to ever see any more Sopranos ever again?
I would think we will, because that's what he can get made, and he likes to create, even though he's pretty sporadic and deliberate. It's the one thing that people have an appetite for. And judging from my conversation with him and his conversation with others, he definitely had an appetite to do more. He just might have to make the deal with the devil, and even, Many Saints didn't make any money, didn't get the awards attention. I liked it a lot. But it might just be that he has to, maybe he does it as a series of maybe he can rationalize it as 4 mini movies, Stranger Things style or something. Maybe there's some way into that. I would think that we're going to see more. If he's healthy enough, if he's able to do it, I would think he'll do it.
I would love to see it, and I would love to have Gandolfini's son do it, because I thought he did such a great job. I thought he was he was underused, but I also thought he was great in the role.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. We'll see what happens. And make sure, once again, you're checking out Happy Sad Confused. It's Josh Horowitz. Follow him on Twitter. And for you guys, I want to thank you. Josh, thank you for joining me, by the way.
Buddy. This was a blast.
We're going to do it again.
Yeah.
All right. So make sure, if you haven't already done it, hit that subscribe button. Comment. Coming back to everybody, too. And don't forget about Athletic Greens, man. Get yourself some of the Athletic Greens, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that podcasts are found. That's the show, everybody. We're going to be back tomorrow. So check us out. All right. Peace.